Welcome to Bigfoot Society. If you have Bigfoot activity to report from the same areas discussed in this episode, please reach out to me directly after this episode. And if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss a personal Bigfoot encounter, please reach out to me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Do you wish there was more Bigfoot Society to listen to every week? Well, there is now. If you become a supporting member over at Patreon, you get a special members-only episode every single week on Wednesdays, and sometimes even more episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. And now let's get on with the show.
I just want to be careful that what you wish for, you just might encounter.
The following interview took a long time to get to happen. It's important to know that this phone call was a random call that I picked up right before the July 4th parade. And so I was really not in the usual mindset for an interview, but something told me to pick up the phone, and I'm glad I did. Due to the fact the individual did not have internet, and it's the first time I've had to actually send a guest release through the mail, I'm glad I finally got that guest release back, and I present to you the following reports from Cindy. Enjoy.
I've been so excited about my Bigfoot story. I haven't been able to tell it for 30 years. She was real, Jeremiah. She was a real creature. Nobody believes us. They think we're crazy.
And where are you calling from today, Cindy?
I'm calling from Indiana, sound, mind, and body. But I remember this. Both my parents wanted me to tell this story after when they passed away. But we actually came in contact with the Bigfoot family and a small child. And it was pretty intelligent. They named her after me because she wanted to know us better. And so they taught her to say the word hi. They taught her to speak English, and she looked very happy with us, but we can tell she was very homesick. And so finally we stayed around the park for about 6 hours, and finally a Bigfoot tribe came through, and they took her back home. And there was a UFO in the area, and we were wondering if that had something to do with we went through time travel. It was about like something like back in back in in the Indian days, when they sort of lived in the caves. But there were 5 Bigfoot people, and we thought it had something to do with time travel. We tried going back several times after this, but there was no sighting, there was no time travel, and things went back to normal in the park. And I actually told somebody about it in Turkey Run, but 30 years later, they were nice enough to listen. But anyway, they were nice about that. But we want you to know this was God's truth, and we're telling the truth.
Cindy, so this happened in Turkey Run Park in Indiana?
Yes, it did. But like I said, creatures like that normally don't live there. So what we had to experience was time travel.
So what year around was this?
About 1983, in the early 1980s. My dad definitely believed in Bigfoot, and he always would. My dad's name was David Ketcher. He was an Indianapolis public school teacher. Carl Wild, School 79, Room 5. And, 5th grade, room 23. And see, back then you didn't go around blabbing about stuff like this. It was called taboo. People didn't believe in UFOs, and they didn't believe in Bigfoot or Sasquatch or, any of that thing like they do today.
Absolutely. So you're saying your dad was kind of like a Bigfoot enthusiast?
Yes, I was. And I'm a psychic, and I had a true paranormal encounter here. It caused me to have some psychic abilities. So they know I can prove my theory because I'm still having experiences from this.
Cindy, can you take us back to that time in 1983 when you had that experience in Turkey Run? Exactly, kind of walk us through what happened that day.
Well, we had lunch at Turkey Run, and they always have great food at a great lodge. And like I said, it was a father and my mother and my little brother. He was about 8 years old then. And I was much younger and much better health then. I could walk without a cane. And anyway, you know how getting old is, but my memory is still intact. I am vividly recalling this as if it only happened yesterday. But it was like, I'm excited about it because it was like something out of those TV shows that you see on TV about, you know, the lost world or something like that coming on. But this was true time travel, and as I said, we started to go down the hiking trail, and we saw some deer out there, and we tried to feed them. They were pretty fair. And the lady at the desk told us that if we saw any bears, she said, for heaven's sake, don't encourage them, don't feed them. So we promised them we were too afraid of bears. But what made us drawn to this little creature was she was afraid and she needed us for protection. And so we stayed with her until her tribe came back.
Were you saying the deer was afraid or the Bigfoot was afraid?
No, we were afraid of the Bigfoot. We were afraid of it, but it cautiously approached us. We cautiously approached us, and they wanted their child back. And so, Dad, we were planning on taking it home. And after the experience, we just found we were going to tell this story. So I'm so grateful. I just found you on the YouTube. I've been searching all 3 years for a Bigfoot channel that I can tell this to.
I'm so glad you found my channel finally, Cindy. So I'm going to ask some clarifying questions along the way, if that's okay, to make sure we get the whole story.
Sure.
So you're hiking down the trail, you saw the deer was afraid, and then get us to, it sounds like eventually then you saw a baby Bigfoot, and then there were some parents involved.
Yes, we first, it was like you know how you see those UFOs in the movies where they pass out a fog-like thing, you know, that kind of covers the territory. It was like walking through a thick fog. And we were like, where in the heck are we? Are we still back in our time? Dad says the Bigfoot is not what worries me. He says, how do we get back into our time? He says, what if we come out at the other end and we're still trapped in their time and not in ours? But even as we crept further into the wood, the deer seemed to disappear. And there was I forgot to add, there was no noise in the woods, no airplanes, no car traffic coming from the modern world. There weren't even any birds, no crows, nothing. It was silence.
Okay, so you started walking through fog, which made you think, well, maybe there's a time travel aspect. Did you actually have a visual on a UFO as well at that time?
Yeah, when I was afraid you'd think I was crazy. I'm not going to lie about it. I got nothing to hide, and I don't mind if you use my program. People ought to be aware these experiences happen.
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to be careful that what you wish for, you just might encounter. You know, the old saying, if you wish for it, you got to be able to own it.
No, I totally agree with that. Just be careful what you wish for. So you're walking through the fog. You say, well, maybe we're in a different time period. There's, you see a UFO, correct?
Yes, I did. It wasn't a silver. It was a typical flying saucer disc, but it was black and it had like yellow and white lights underneath it. It was making a low humming noise.
And was it parked or was it flying up in the air?
It was hovering. It was hovering, but like I said, it was invisible to the outside world because UFOs have this ability to not be detected. That's why a lot of the reports are not showing up on the Blue Book project that they don't want us to know about. And I think they did find aliens in Area 51, and I think they're still there.
I would agree. There's some interesting things going on out there that we don't know all of it.
And
can
I say another thing that happened from this Bigfoot experience?
Absolutely.
We experienced the men in black. We experienced the men in black.
Okay, so
I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, we could totally get there. Yeah. So you've had the UFO encounter. Then after that, was that when you started to see the Bigfoot or the baby Bigfoot? Yeah,
baby. Yes.
Can you kind of walk us through like what you remember, how it looked like, how it was acting, a good description of it, maybe?
I mean the UFO.
The baby Bigfoot.
Oh, it acted like it was when we saw it from the back, it looked like a chimpanzee. And then that's the interesting part. It looked at first like it had a chimpanzee's face. And then when it turned around when we first encountered it, it had a humanoid little girl's face and become completely characteristic. But did you know that Bigfoot can disguise themselves? Did anybody ever tell you that before?
So I've heard a hypothesis that there could be a creature that changes itself to something that the person looking at it would be more comfortable looking at. And I think that might be kind of similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, because when it first looked at me, it looked like an ape, and it was making hooty sounds like they do, ooh, 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 like all that stuff, like monkeys or ape sound. And some of the others were running around on all fours, but this little girl was walking on 2 feet and tried to imitate us. He was that smart.
There were multiple Bigfoot in the area, you're saying?
Five.
Five, okay. And were they all juveniles, or were they also adults?
They were all adults. There was sort of like an older male would seem to be like the leader of the group. There was like a mother and father and two, yeah, you were right, two adolescents.
Sorry, so you said... mother, father, 2 adolescents?
Yeah, and let's see, wait a minute, I need one more, sorry.
Yep.
1, 2, that's 3. One more, one more adolescent. I couldn't tell whether they were girls or boys.
Gotcha. Now, you said that, so did you actually see the face of the adolescents change from a chimp to a humanoid type face?
Yes, I did.
Really?
I did. I was on no medication at the time, no drugs, no alcohol, nothing.
Have you ever seen anything in a movie, like a sci-fi movie, that was similar to what you saw that day, where it changed its face?
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
They've shown Bigfoot encounters, but they didn't show them having accountants, like changing from something to another. I didn't see anything that could have influenced me.
Right. That is a thing where I've never really had a report where the person saw the face change like that. It's very interesting. How tall would you say it was?
Well, the mother of the tribe seemed to be like only 5 feet tall, and the rest of them seemed to be like 6 feet tall. But they were making guttural monkey sounds to communicate. The rest of them could speak English like the little child could. I thought it was like, and can I mention something else? It was like she had an ESP, and I think this was how she was tapping into learning our language. She could read our brain thoughts, our mind thoughts, and listen to what we were saying, inside her mind.
Is there a conversation going on, you think maybe through mind speak, or?
Yeah, I think she was trying to read her mind. I think they do have ESP, and they can tell what we're thinking. I think they're that smart.
What were the thoughts that you were experiencing during this time?
Well, I said in my mind, who are you? Where are we from? I was afraid we were going to go to another planet. I wanted to go home. I had a favorite TV show on that night. Some kind of show, I forget what, but I remember I had some kind of show I wanted to get back on. Because back in those days, they didn't have these, recorders very much back then that you could tape a show and watch it to it again. But yeah, the only movies I saw back then, they didn't have so much Bigfoot. I never saw Bigfoot back in the 80s or TV show. Mom wouldn't let me watch them if they were on. And then she got stuck with me meeting the real one. That was always so funny.
That's really funny. What did they...
go ahead.
When
the movie... Oh, I'm sorry. I'm excited about telling this. And when the movie Poltergeist, I know what she did when she took extra precaution. When the movie Poltergeist came out, I thought it was great. And anyway, I was in the home, but she said, no, we're going to watch. It was a library at Speedway Public Library for 35 years. And she took me over there to the meeting room to watch the movie, because she said after meeting a Bigfoot, she says, I don't want you watching this movie at home and bring home something else.
Okay. Wow, that's wild. Thank you for sharing that. When you had those thoughts in your head, did you have any returned from the creatures?
Not yet. We're still hoping they find us all the way here in Avon.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Do you remember any? So I'm just going to ask you some questions about different details to see if what we can remember. So do you remember anything about the hair color or the length?
It was like a monkey, like a chimpanzee. So it was a chestnut color. It was long hair, and you can tell the woman, she had, like the monkeys you see on TV on the monkey shows, live animals. They had a frontie that looked like the chest of a female ape. But they wore no clothing of any kind, and the female stuck to high heaven. I remember she had a severe body odor. I wish I couldn't give her a bath that night. Bless her. You can smell her all the way down the path.
Gotcha. How were they interacting with each other when you saw the group?
They got along great with each other, except the female didn't get along with the older ape-like creature. He was always trying to dominate her, and she didn't like it. You know how in some marriages where the wife doesn't get along with the male because he tries to be the boss, and she was independent enough. She didn't like it too well. I'll say that.
Gotcha. What was it that made you think that the one creature was like the older one in charge?
Because it wasn't running as fast.
Okay.
It had difficulty walking, like it hurt its leg or something, like it had arthritis. They were so much like us, it was absolutely phenomenal.
What was the hair like for the older one?
It was thick, covering. They had it on every area except their chest. It was light covered on their chest, you can see. But, it was covered real thick chestnut hair down on their legs.
So the older one had chestnut color as well?
Yeah.
Okay, and very interesting. I'm thinking real quick. So let's go back to what the faces looked like. It feels like you got a really good look at the face. Can you describe things like the eyes, the nose, the mouth?
The eyes were black.
Now, when you say black eyes, do you mean the entire eye was black or just the
entire
pupil?
eye was black.
Okay, so full black eye, no white spots showing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it had a grip. It had like a frown expression on it. The male looked at us like it didn't trust us, kept its distance, and it howled at us the entire time.
Very interesting. So you're saying a frown from the male, so you weren't able to see the teeth at all?
No.
Okay.
But it didn't like me.
Gotcha.
I felt threatened by it.
How wide across the face did the mouth go? Was it very drawn out, or?
Well, it was a wide grimace, and then it kind of went into an evil smile, like it was trying to threaten us. I felt like the little girl was there to protect us from the herd. I felt like she was our protector because we were kind to it.
Gotcha. You've mentioned that there was, or how long was the hair? Sorry, there's a lot of questions I have in my mind right now.
Well, it's about, it's just like, I don't know how to say this. It's just like a chimpanzee,
Okay.
I don't know how to describe it.
A few inches.
Length.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like the missing link. It was a cross between a Bigfoot and a missing link. What Charles Darwin's theory was, man came from the missing link.
Have you seen photos in books or movies that look similar to what you saw that day?
No, just chimpanzees.
Okay.
The actual real chimpanzees. That's the closest I can describe. It has the ears, the nose, and the mouth. That's what it looked like before it changed to a humanoid face.
Okay, gotcha. So when it was a chimp look, it actually you could see ears. What was the shape of the head at that time?
It was like a regular chimp's head.
Okay. Gotcha. When it changed to a humanoid face, did the shape of the head change at all?
Nope. That's what was terrifying about it. I didn't know whether it was a meeting or whether it planned on capturing us. But luckily, Dad said it was like it was trying to hypnotize us, and into staying there so it could do something to us. And Dad said, "I'm not staying around." And so we finally broke free, and we all ran back down the path through the fog. And luckily, we came out into the parking lot of the turkey run, and we were just happy to be back. I would never want to leave Earth. I would never want to travel out in space because you have no control. And I would never want to go to another planet because I'd be too scared now.
So, absolutely, I'd be right there with you, right? So, your dad got to thinking that they were trying to hypnotize you or keep you in that area. Do you know?
So they can take us back wherever they came from.
Did he ever say? I'm sure you guys talked about this, or maybe you didn't. Did he ever say there was a certain point where something happened where then I realized they were trying to hypnotize us?
Dad would just broke the spell. Dad broke the spell. They were trying to work on him the most because he seemed to have the most control, and they wanted me for some reason, but I don't know why. They were trying to get at me because I was communicating with little girl at most.
Try to remember. Do you remember anything about the arms of the creatures, like length or how
they looked like I'm sorry. She was swinging them like walking, almost walking like a person, but was swinging the arms like an ape would if they walked for a little short while on legs.
Gotcha.
Swinging back and forth.
And the hands, were they covered with hair, or how did they look?
Oh, yes, they looked hideous. She had the dark fingernails that a chimp would have, and can you imagine living like that when you couldn't shave or do anything else?
It would be, well, the question is like, if that's all you know, is it really a bad thing to you, right? I don't know.
Well, I want to take a shower once in a while.
Yeah, well, I would too, but I know what that's like, right? So when you saw them as a group, were they doing any activities together, like creating structures or cooking or anything?
They were
like
washing in the creek. They were washing their hands like they just had a kill or something, like killer squirrel or something. They were washing their hands and they were hooting. They were bouncing up and down on their legs, like squatting at the water and going, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Gotcha. Oh, very interesting. Do you think there was any maybe like fish catching or fishing involved? Or?
Could have been.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to stick around to find out.
Yeah, right. So it sounds like, you were coming into this foggy area with the UFO, and then did you see them alongside the creek, or when you came upon them, they were actually in the creek?
They were actually there already doing their thing.
Okay. Very, very interesting. Do you remember anything about the forehead of the creatures?
It looked like a human forehead with the wrinkles.
Okay. Was it pronounced
Three
brown?
wrinkles.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 wrinkles. And like I said, all of them, even the little girl had black eyes. Black lens.
I definitely have more questions if you have a little bit more time.
That's fine. Sure.
So, okay. Did you see them walking around a lot?
Well, they were kind of squatting at first. And then when they saw us, they ran back into the bush. At first, they were just trying to make casual conversation, like growling and snapping at each other. Boy, they didn't get along very good. When
you see something walk, it's called the gait. How a human will walk, it has a certain gait to it usually. Did it have these creatures have an unusual gait to them? How they were walking? It
was like an ape-like walk. When you see a chimpanzee, it wasn't human. It was like a chimpanzee walking, trying to walk.
Gotcha.
And they didn't have that much strength.
Okay. What was the posture of the creatures like?
Kind of bent over.
Like sloping forward, bent over? Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't straight up like a human.
Okay. Did you see any ways that they had been affecting the environment around them in that area?
Yeah, it was totally calm, totally quiet. It was odd. Like there was nothing for the present with you except the clothes on your back, what you brought with you.
Gotcha. Any like pushed over trees or broken tree limbs or things they
Nope,
might have been?
nope, nothing
Okay.
like that.
You mentioned a few times where they'd been making sounds towards you and towards each other. What kind of sounds did you hear in general in that time?
Just they're monkey-like creatures.
Gotcha. How long do you think you were there in their presence for?
About an hour and a half.
An hour and a half. Okay, so that's a really long time, for sure.
I told you they were out to get me. They wanted me because I have psychic talent and I could communicate. And they were trying to control Dad's mind so they could get control of me. They didn't care much about my mother or my brother. They were non-believers at the time. But boy, Mom sure changed after that.
An hour and a half. So were there certain activities that happened during that time, or were you just kind of staring at each other and like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. Should we get out of here? Or?
I was trying to break free of their trance. Like I said, it was like they were trying to prove us into hypnotism-like control. I was too smart for him. Only thing I said was, Dad, I want to go home, and he says we all do.
Oh, well, that's actually really scary.
They wouldn't let us go.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't let us go.
Oh, so it wasn't like...
I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to be here today.
It wasn't like you were just hanging out there. It's like you didn't want to be there for the hour and a half. You were trying to get away.
No.
Oh, wow.
No.
Okay, so...
I wanted to go home. Brian was starting to cry. He was a little boy.
Oof. The funny thing is that I've actually been to Turkey Run State Park in Indiana back in the 90s. So it was a while back. What particular, can you share?
It's a very nice place to visit.
It is, yeah. Can you share what particular part of the park this took place in?
It was around the end.
Okay.
When you first come out and you go across. And I was out, this is back in the 80s. This is hard for me to remember.
Sure.
Exactly what was there. But I remember the inn itself, and some of those state parks had horse rides. And I used to ride a horse named Ranger. With my grandparents, I always wanted a horse, but Grandpa had a farm, but he didn't live on it, and he said, "We're not getting a horse, Cindy."
Right, yeah. Horses can be fun, but they can also be quite a handful. From what I remember, this state park has very deep canyons for that area that you can walk through.
That's where we were at. That canyon,
okay.
Where it shows that cliff overhanging.
So you were in the canyon. Was it the area that you had seen these creatures in?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's where the fog was.
Now I'm going to tell you.
That I thought we were done for. I thought, boy, this is Edgar Rice Burroughs' Lost World. I said, we're going into it. I always liked that movie, but I never wanted to experience it.
You never wanted to go yourself. So the thing about that is that part of my life, like I wasn't super into Bigfoot. I'd watched some stuff before it kind of got out of it. I was like junior high-ish maybe. But going down that canyon, I remember it's a different, you feel like you're going somewhere else, and you just
back
really
into
get some
prehistoric times.
You get some weird vibes down there, I remember, as a little kid.
I bet it's haunted. I
don't know. I would wish that people, if they've also experienced stuff there, that they would reach out to me. Your father, was there an event that led him to first believe in Bigfoot before this?
Yeah, he saw a UFO before this. I didn't want to say this.
Okay.
But he had seen a UFO earlier prior to this, and that's how we got into this. That's how he saw the Men in Black was before this experience was. But he had an encounter. He said, "Can I tell you another story that happened with Bigfoot after this experience?"
Oh, absolutely.
This is where we're getting.
Go ahead.
This is where we're getting into, my dad had a UFO experience, and then that same year he went to Indiana State Fair. And the Indiana Coliseum explosion, Dad said that he felt like he went through time travel after this. He was at the Indiana State Fair week to year this. My mom and brother were coming back from some of the snack stands, and he said that he had spoken to a young woman that was dressed in older fashion clothing that the fire coliseum was back in the 1960s. And anyway, he had met a young lady, and she said her name was Lydia, and she had to get back to her family in Fort Wayne. Now, my question is, does a young lady by the name of Lydia haunt the state fairgrounds from the Coliseum explosion that night?
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Yeah. That is really interesting. And what year was that again that your dad experienced that?
That was back in the late 1980s.
Wow. Oh, that's wild. Can you share you said there was a Men in Black aspect to everything?
Yeah, they did not look like men. When they came to him, in that experience, they had no faces.
Really? Faceless individuals?
And they were dressed in all black,
Okay.
the typical black hat, the black suit, the black shoes, but they didn't say anything. They just observed him. They were at his front doorstep, and they just observed him for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then they disappeared. They did speak one thing, that Dad looked at him. He always liked Frank Edwards, flying saucers. He said, I never thought we'd be doing this.
Right.
But all this is true. And that one guy said, are we on Earth yet? And then they disappeared.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Oh, here's a question. Over your time with the Bigfoot and Turkey Run, were you able to get any pictures, or was there any evidence captured?
No, we didn't have any pictures.
Okay.
No, we did not bring, but we do have the memories.
Absolutely, which are priceless for sure.
I wish we would have had a camera. We would have been millionaires by now.
It'd all be solved,
I would have
right?
had to gone to this retirement home, and I could live like I wanted to.
Absolutely.
I don't like retirement home cooking, however.
Did you?
I don't know. Maybe I should have been captured by the UFO. Maybe they would have had better equipment on another planet. On here, on the same menu, I swear, it's the same lunch and dinner every day. Never varies very much, and it's the same thing. Now, wouldn't you rather be captured by the UFO than eat this same menu every day? Come on.
You have a beautiful spirit, Cindy. I'm really thankful for you sharing everything today. Did you ever look to see if there are any other encounters like this in Turkey Run over the years?
Yes, but they had nothing but bear encounters and things like that. Like I said, we were chosen to have this experience so we can tell others. Do you still want to use my story?
Absolutely, yeah. It's incredible.
So, what's your name?
So my name's Jeremiah.
Pardon me?
It's Jeremiah. So after this...
And what's the name of your story? The name of your channel?
It's called Bigfoot Society. So what I would like to... Is this a regular telephone number, or is it a cell phone?
Yes.
Is it a cell phone?
Regular land phone. But this is a true story. I'm not hiding any details. I'm not making any of this up. Was this a good interview today?
I'll tell you, this is one of the coolest ones I've ever had, and it was unexpected, so I'm glad you called.
But you will have me. I'm going to be on your. I like you, and I like your show, and I want to really be on your broadcast.
Well, thank you for calling, Cynthia. I really appreciate it, and you have a great July 4th. Okay.
So, will you call me back when this happens? Can I have your phone number again? I forgot it.
It's 515-809-0165.
1555 what?
515-809-0165.
809 what again, please?
0165.
0165. I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, thank you for calling, Cynthia. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and look forward to... I'll be sending something in the mail, okay?
But you really do think I'll get on your show?
If I get that release back, it will. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Cindy's story is far from over, as you can see from the following voicemails I received from her. And I now have more questions than ever, as you'll soon find out.
Hi, Jerry. Jeremy, sorry to bother you. One last time, Dave and I saw a podcast about viewers' comments, and you said you like to have a Dogman story. Well, have I got a story for you? It stemmed from a UFO. Remember, I was telling you about the UFO, this true story. Now, back in about 1980, 79 through 1980, my father was a school teacher at Indianapolis, School 79, grade 23, room 5. And he also had a license to be a principal. And, well, anyway, it was some evening on a weekend that he was traveling down a country road in Brown County, Indiana. And he had a new puppy with him. She was a Dachshund puppy, and her name was Sandy. Well, here's where the story begins. Dad was coming down the road. All of a sudden, his car got stolen. It died in the middle of the roadway. And Dad was starting to panic because the doors wouldn't, the windows to the car wouldn't open, the radio was shutting on and off, and the car was stalling. So finally, the car went completely silent. And then he heard a low humming noise that sounded like it was coming from above the car. He was driving an Oldsmobile at the time, and it was a fairly new car back then. But anyway, he and the dog were trapped by a UFO. He finally got the window open, and he said it was this stifling inside the car. You couldn't breathe, and the dog was having trouble. He picked her up and let her breathe out the car window to try to get some air. Well, anyway, here's what happened. The UFO was carrying on, making its noises, and he saw white and yellow lights underneath the saucer. It was a traditional black flying saucer. Well, as it was busy doing whatever was going on at the time, he was set back in time to 1956 to 1957 for about an hour. He still was unable to open the car doors to get out. So, but anyway, he began to really panic. Now, the times and scenes were going back to that time. He saw no more modern cars on the highway. Even the farmhouses and the regular houses that had been along the way and the billboards were gone. Everything was back to the time, and then he was stuck in that time frame for about half an hour. He can see and hear the cars pass by and the people talking in the cars. They were that close. They seemed not to notice him. So finally the UFO left, and about 5 minutes later he suddenly came to himself, and he was on the outskirts of Indianapolis from Brownsburg, and he had no idea about the time frame in his watch. And one thing my dad says that right before he blacked out, he saw an alien staring through the car window at him, and they looked like your typical alien entities with the wide almond eyes, and this one was kind of grayish-green, looked like a man. But anyway, he was staring in through the car window before my dad passed out and found himself back in Indianapolis. Well, here's the thing. He made it back home, and he was absolutely terrified. And Mom was fixing his favorite meatloaf dinner for supper, and she said, Dave, what's wrong? She said, you look like you seen a ghost. And he said, worse. And when the doorbell rang for about 6 weeks later, Dad refused to open the door and always ran into the bedroom, or either had Mom answer it, or he didn't answer the door. He wouldn't even go out and get the mail. But anyway, he was afraid of the man in black, and by the way, he did see him when he regained his memory. He dreamed about him every single night for about 6 weeks prior to that time. But he had nightmares. He woke up sweaty. He had trouble breathing. He had very harsh breathing spells. He panicked. But anyway, after about a month, they decided to go on with their lives. So the puppy was still there, and she was still kind of fidgety. Well, anyway, the next statement that the UFO cause was, I told you about that incident we had at Bigfoot, and I didn't tell you about another Bigfoot sighting, or I don't remember. We had 2 of them. One was at this grandmother's farm. I don't think I told you this because I didn't think about it at the time, and just kind of escaped my mind, but it's true, too. He was on my grandmother's farm in Winchester, Indiana. And again, the same scenario. He saw a white albino Bigfoot, and she was hiding around one of the buildings. He put up no trespassing signs on my grandmother's farm. There was a 100-year-old barn there, and a creature fell through the flooring, and he helped it out, and he fed it and everything. But anyway, it was much like the other one that we saw, and we're wondering if it's not a new species of Bigfoot in Indiana, because we had 2 sightings of it. And, have you ever wondered about Bigfoot, where Bigfoot really comes from? Is it a descendant of Neanderthal man? Is it still in evolution, or is it an alien from another planet? I mean, we had 2 sightings of it. Now, we're in the last part, in case you're wondering. Here's the part where Dogman comes in. You wouldn't hear a report about Dogman, okay? Well, you got it. Here's the part after the animals dispersed and we saw they were safely going back to their woods home on my grandmother's farm, and it had a 100-year-old barn I told you about. But anyway, after a month after that, Dad had another sighting from the UFO. We don't know why it was following us, and the men in black, we did determine that we saw them on one occasion. They don't look anything like they do in the movies. They're far more too terrifying. And anyway, what happened was we were sitting at home in the living room having supper one evening. We were just watching the news on television, and Mom was cooking some type of breakfast meal, because Dad said he was getting tired of everything else and wanted, like, pancakes, scrambled eggs, patties, bacon, something like that. So excuse me. And anyway, we heard a little growling sound, and Dad turned down the TV sound, and he said, "What's that noise? Is it Sandy?" And I said, "No, it doesn't sound like a dog." So Dad went over there to the sliding glass door, and Mom opened up the curtain and the drapes. And when she pulled the drapes, we all received the shock of our lives. There before us was Dogman in all his glory. He stood between 5 feet and 6 feet tall. I'm not kidding you. He looked just like a werewolf. You thought Bigfoot was terrified. Well, Bigfoot's tame compared to this guy. He was frothing at the mouth and just glaring at us with those evil green eyes, and it had black retinas, or whatever you call them, in the middle, but it didn't look like eyes do on a dog. It looked entirely different. They were dark. But anyway, it was growling and snarling at us, and Mom said, "I'm going to hit him with a broom." And Dad said, "No, you're not." He went to the back bedroom, grabbed his silver coin box, and took it to the window and showed it to him, and that thing let out a shriek. I swear I will never forget this as long as I live. It howled like there was no tomorrow, and it dispersed into the woods, and we never saw it again. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want anybody to see this. But anyway, just remember, next time, if you take a hike in the woods, bring food for Bigfoot. You don't want a hungry Bigfoot after you. And also, as a precaution, take some kind of a silver medal or something it can't be sterling. Sterling doesn't work on God, but it has to be pure, solid silver, like a coin or something else that's made. Here's the climax of the story caused by the UFO, Bigfoot, and the sighting of Dogman. Well, anyway, after that, we slowly recovered and tried going back to our lives. But this thing, or whatever the UFO was, these strange creatures seemed to plague us all of our lives while we lived in town sighting in the neighborhood. There was a creek with woods behind us that we weren't imagining things, and we would have no reason to tell tales, because it really happened. Because after that, that entity that called himself Jeffrey, the alien I was telling you about, he followed us all of our lives, and I've seen him when I met him, and how what happened was, on a month ago in June, I was allowed a ghost investigation in my apartment here, and they wanted to know about our experiences too. They were kind of intrigued. nobody made fun of us or anything. They wanted to believe it. And so, and you don't have to worry, aliens already are here. This one's been observing. It has predicted the deaths of 4 aunts and uncles. They died. My parents both died. My grandparents, all 4 died as a result of this alien appearing to me and predicting that they would die. And then he also possesses a haunted doll here. He knows that it's my favorite because, I collect porcelain, antique dolls and other memorabilia. And anyway, it's attached to a rag doll here that was homemade by somebody at a thrift store, and it seems attached to that. And the medium that came to the ghost investigation held the doll and said, "It feels sadness when I hold this doll. It feels like death." And I said, well, of course, it has predicted all those people's deaths in our family. And has seen it. The other doll that was antique sailor doll, it was dressed in a sailor suit from the late 1950s, and it was a toddler-sized doll with blonde hair, and I named him Andy. And when I talked to the voices on the EVP meter as the ghost, I actually got to use the equipment. It was exciting. I'd love to prove other worlds. But anyway, the voice coming from the doll and the meter, when the medium asked him who he was, I said, "Hi, Andy, say hi to the nice ladies here." There were 3 of them. And Andy says on the EVP meter, "My name is Andy. My name is not Andy. It's Andrew." And we didn't know anybody by the name of Andrew. The alien was playing tricks on us. It was trying to speak. Anyway, sorry. This is Cynthia again. I hope I'm entertaining you with my mysterious stories, but true stories. We're wrapping this up now. The last time the alien spoke, he said his name was Jeffrey, so we just kind of left it at that and figured, what the heck. But anyway, Jeffrey said that his name was Jeffrey, and he said, he warned me, he said that he would be watching me. So I don't know what he meant by that. And he said if I tried to destroy the doll, which he was inhabiting, his alien spirit or whatever was inside the doll, it said that if I tore it up or disposed of it in any way or burned it, I would die in 5 years. If I discarded it by any other means, that I would die in 3 years. So currently I have the possessed doll or whatever it was. But anyway, Jeffrey is here. He says, tell you hi, and he hopes that he gets his story on one of your podcasts, because people need to know these things do exist. Thank you. Hi, Jeremiah. I signed your official report the other day, and I got a new one for you. I'd love to tell you my first encounter with the UFO. You heard about my dad's exciting adventures. Well, this is something that is out of time and space. It's called The Night I Was Nearly Abducted by the Black-Eyed Children. The Black-Eyed Children, let me tell you, are not as innocent and childlike as they seem. The creatures I saw that night will really astound you. It was far more than anything we could ever imagine here on Earth. They're far more superior and more advanced than we are. But anyway, there I was. I just had my left knee operated on. I had a bad fall, and I had to have surgery, unfortunately. And I was recuperating at home in my bedroom. And I had a new pet cat named Patty Cake. She was a tiger striped kitty with an orange spot on her forehead, which made her real cute and unique. And Dad called her Patty Cake. Well, anyway, Patty Cake was about a young kitten at the time, and Mom got me a parakeet for a companion. I always wanted to teach a parakeet how to talk. Well, anyway, I got my wish. I got a new parakeet, and his name was Petey, and he was quite intelligent. And that night, after watching the news, I decided to read in bed for a couple minutes of magazine. And so, anyway, Petey was starting to get obnoxious by then and really wanted to annoy us, myself and the cat. Sometimes he liked to make noises, loud noises, to annoy us. sometimes he'd whistle, and my brother would come in to the room, and he'd say hi to him. Then he started belching or, making other weird noises to annoy the bird. They'd really go at it. But anyway, while Petey was carrying on, suddenly the room got real still and the TV set went off. And lights went off, and I couldn't get out of bed. I was suddenly paralyzed, but it wasn't with fear. It was like something was trying to tie me down to the bed, like some unseen force. Well, anyway, at this particular time, the window was still shut, and the air inside was starting to get stifling. And when I looked around the room, strange fog-like substance was in the room, and I thought, oh no, have the aliens come back to finish the job? But anyway, within a few minutes, when my eyes became adjusted to the darkness of the room, guess what I saw? You guessed, the two alien children, the black-eyed children. They were dark-skinned. Hi, this is Cynthia. I got another story for you. Have you heard of the airplane pilot that stole the plane from the Air Force? His name is Rich, and he crash-landed on Ketron Island, Ketron. Well, anyway, that's my last name, and I can communicate with the pilot, and he started me off on this quest on YouTube, and that's how I met you originally. Rich had suggested that I get in contact with you. He's sort of like an agent, and he helps me on my endeavors. But anyway, that's how I met you, was through Rich. Well, anyway, he's sort of like a guardian spirit now, and he crash-landed his plane on Ketron Island, and he associates me with him now because my last name is Ketron. And when he was on my ghost investigation team that a day, we were trying to help cross him over, but he was so lively. He talked for about 2 hours that night through that machine. And, we also met the alien creature named Jeffrey about my UFO experience I had back in 1980. My dad and I both had two separate occasions. There was a red probe in the backyard that was like taking pictures of everything. And that's how I met Jeffrey the alien. And we got him on our ghost investigation meter. And when they asked him what his name was, he says Jeffrey, and the two ladies said, we don't know who he is. And I said, well, I know who he is. But anyway, after that, we met Rich, and he crash-landed his plane on Ketron Island, and he came to me when I saw the newscast, And I asked him if he wanted to communicate, and he's been assisting me ever since. So he wants everyone to know that he's sorry for committing suicide. And, it wasn't right, but at the end he changed his mind, and he didn't want to do it, but he ran out of fuel, and he didn't have a choice. So we hope we can help him cross over to the other side. I was hoping that maybe you can use this story for one of your other shows, paranormal shows. I thought you might be able to use it for one of your other shows. This is completely different, and he was there at the investigation, and he was one of their number one guests that night. They enjoyed talking to him, and so do I. Well, anyway, thank you.
If you struggle with suicidal thoughts, please contact the 988 Suicide in Crisis Lifeline. You are important, and we need you here. Thank you. Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed, share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's a list. If you've had any encounters in Oregon, which I'm sure there's probably a few of you out there, please feel free to reach out immediately. You can use email bigfootsociety@gmail.com. A special thank you to all the Bigfoot Society Patreon and YouTube channel members. It's your support that helps keep the show going, and I extremely appreciate it. If you want to join in the fun, you can join over at patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. I'll see you there. And again, thanks for listening.
Her and I can get on here and we can tell our stories. Maybe there's somebody else out there listening that's too afraid to tell their story. Maybe this will give them the courage to come out and not feel so bad about it. Who cares what anybody thinks? I know what I saw. I know what's out there. That's all I care about.
Please let people know. Please let them know. If you ever see one of these things, you need to tell. Because if you don't, then shame on you. You know? Shame on you.